hear your story and for you to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
Of course. Yeah, I am excited. And of course, if you haven't seen or heard Paul's voice and you're in the creative industry, I'm not sure what you're doing because you are literally everywhere. You're obviously the senior creative cloud evangelist for Adobe. So you're at Adobe Max, you're on Adobe Live. I mean, you're everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm probably like a bad rash that just won't go away. Probably is what some people think. So I swear I try to just do what I can. So thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff, and I've been doing this. Like you said, I'm a senior creative cloud evangelist. So I evangelize everything kind of from a design creative standpoint. I've been doing it for a good 8-9 years now, but I've, been in the industry 10 plus years before that. So a long time. It's like I'm older than people think, but I'm young at heart because I think what we do here is like creatives. I don't care where you are. I still think if you're working in the industry, you're in the best industry ever. And I hope people are excited about doing what they do. Because even if they hate their day job, you have the opportunity to take that software, go home, make websites, just like you could do anything, with your career, which is always exciting. And I get so excited just thinking and talking about it. So
yeah, possibilities are endless. And we're gonna, before I jump ahead of ourselves here, but let's just kind of go back to the beginning and get a bit like can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like Paul, way back in the day?
Yeah, way back in the day. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know. So essentially I was kind of like the art kid in school. So I was like, illustrating for like the newspaper and stuff. And then, so I just did art because I had some drawing capabilities and everything. But, and then I was just like anybody, like you turn 18 and you're like, okay, I guess I got to go. Like, I guess I'm kind of talented with drawing. Let's go to art school. But I kind of always knew that I was going to go to art school. So I went to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, which is here in Denver, Colorado, which is where I live now. And then I went there for an illustration degree. I graduated with a bachelor's in like 95. Right. So I was like actually one of the first people to use, like, we had a technical illustration class and I was the first person to use like the computer, which sounds crazy because we used to have these rapidograph pens and you'd actually do a technical illustration with these little rapidograph pens. And I was the first to do it in Adobe Illustrator. I don't know what version it was in 95, but like that's what I did. And I was doing some 3D animation and stuff. So I think just like anybody, you get really into like, you get into technology because it's fun. I think it's super awesome. But, at the end of the day, like, do you have, I used to be honest with you, Brianna, did you graduated with a graphic design degree?
Yeah. BFA.
So my roommate had a BFA or went for the BFA. And I was like, you can't draw. You can't, you're not. I was like, I don't know. I was like, what are you doing here in art school? You can't draw, and I do more graphic design these days. Kind of makes me wish, I went for a graphic design degree because everything that I learned back then was so important. Those fundamentals of design, like I carry with me regardless of what like screen my stuff ends up on. I know the graphic design fundamentals. And after doing, this for so long, if I do one talk over and over again, it's like the fundamentals of design don't change. The screens might change. It's all about, capturing the eyeballs and leading that eye through that design. And like telling that message that you need to tell. And sometimes it doesn't even mean that it's a design. Like these days with like, again, I'll probably get off subject, but with like, Siri or Alexa, the Amazon Echoes of the world, like, Adobe XD, you can now actually prototype voice interactions, which there's no pixels there. Amazing. So where am I as a designer? How do I fit in that? You should be the design leader saying, hey, you know what? Maybe this doesn't need an interface.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm all over the place, but.
So you knew I always kind of ask people this question and I just am curious to see the answer, but did you know, you said you kind of were always naturally just artsy. You just came naturally to you. Was there a moment that you remember you were kind of like, oh, hey, I'm kind of good at this and I kind of like it. Maybe I should do it for a career.
Yeah, I think like in middle school, especially like my middle school art teacher really, kind of recognized some talent in me, because prior to that, what kid doesn't have their little drawings on their parents on the fridge at home? Like
Right.
everybody does. It wasn't until like middle school I'm like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And then even freshman in high school, I was like, wow, I was like pretty good at painting. Excuse me. But I was like more of a commercial artist. So I wasn't like I think when you think of it like an art school kid or an art kid in high school, like he's like brooding and probably wore black and just kind of hung out with the smokers, but didn't smoke, but just hung out with the smokers or whatever. I don't know. But I was very much like I was in sports, and then I drew for like the newspaper, and I did all the art stuff. And I was in a small enough school to where I could actually, Pueblo County High School in Colorado, small enough where I could do pretty much whatever we want, but obviously didn't have access to a lot of materials and training and stuff.
Right. Did you
but
ever,
just enough,
Yeah. Did you, so since you mentioned like art kids or art, you have this stigma about the way they look, who they hang out with, but you seem to be like a little bit outside of that. Did that ever make you feel, were you ever torn? Because between like your two loves, like sports and drawing?
Let me think about that. I mean, I think honestly, at some point you do have to make a decision. I was never really torn. Like I had a lot of friends that were like the athletic, guys in school and stuff like that. And then after a while, I was like, I'm maybe not so good at basketball. Like junior year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of let that go and like focus on like my career. And I, took college courses, when I was in a junior and a senior and stuff like that. So I always just kind of worked my butt off, and I've always been like pretty independent individual. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know if I had a lot of friends in high school. I was just like very independent. I've 4 other siblings. So it's like me and my brothers and sisters. And I just went to work, and I worked at McDonald's and played sports, and I drew when I could, and a lot of times back then it was like basketball players. Like dunking, Michael Jordan dunking, anybody just dunking, me dunking.
Right.
Like somebody was always dunking. It's look at my sketch
in Jordans. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's really awesome, and I think I always love to ask that question because we all come from so many different backgrounds in so many different ways, and I feel like some people usually the answers are, well, I don't know, I just kind of had it in me, I was born with it, and then some people are like, I kind of accidentally stumbled upon it by accident. So it's really, I love to ask that question and see what people have to say.
Yeah. And, and I think some people stumble upon it. Some people have a natural like inclination or talent for it. And I've always thought that. I was like, oh, I have a talent. Like, even if you don't have a talent, but if you have a passion for it, that passion and that hard work will do so much more than this sort of like talent. And I think when we say talent, it's all really, I think you know how to see as a designer, how to, as an illustrator, how to transfer that 3D image to a flat surface, and I remember saying, and when I mentioned passion, sort of maybe the lack of talent, I mean, like do art, do design, do everything, even if you don't think you're talented at it, because sure enough, you will be. I used to think, okay, you have to be talented in order to be an illustrator. But then, like, why would you need art school if it couldn't be taught? So, like, anything can be taught is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and practice.
And where's the motivation going to come from? It's really going to be from, like, your passion. And that passion could come from just seeing somebody else's work. This huge. Like, so this is 2 sides to this. I love talking I want to bring up the fact that if you see something and you're inspired by something, try to draw it, try to recreate it, like pay homage to that piece. Don't rip it off and act like it's yours, but it's okay to look at something and say, how did you do that? Let me learn how to create that. Like do that all day long. So that's what the great masters did. They had apprentices. The apprentices painted exactly like the masters, and they had an issue. Like, did Caravaggio, paint this, or did one of his apprentices? Because that's what you did as an apprentice. You copied. And there's a lot that needs to go into like just copying somebody else's work. I think it's underrated,
Yeah, there's a lot you can learn from. I think we always, there's so much like be original, be different, don't be the same. And I think there is something to like learning from other people and dissecting their work and figuring out how that all happened and how they got it to come together and how you can emulate that in your own way in other things.
yeah, and the thing is like you're never really, you are copying, but you can't exclude you from the final piece. There's always going to be a piece of you in it, so it's never going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So you know, the big thing is like honestly, just get to work, copy other people's work. You do that day in and day out, and you're going to be, you know, the one in that. You're going to be a professional. You know, it's hard not to if you're doing it day in and day out and just like copying other people's work, you know, as opposed to just trying to draw. Like you just try to draw, like, no, look at something, try to imitate, try to redraw that.
Right.
Don't just like from memory, because you see all these, you know, whatever YouTube videos or Instagram, like, oh, this thing appeared out of nowhere. No. You don't know the background sketch that they did, and they already drew it once, and now they're doing it second time for the camera. But they had a source file. They used images. They could have been drawing over an image, and now they're doing it for a second time on the camera.
Right. Yeah, so much learning can come from that. But like, I think that's really interesting that you kind of went to school for one thing and transitioned to another. So how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because so I went to art school, majored in illustration, got into like kind of computers at the time. I've changed I feel like I've changed my career a lot, but I've always been in like the same industry, and not even that much. But I again worked for a newspaper in college where I like was into airbrush. So I'd airbrush these covers. So I did, you know, illustrated for a newspaper. And then I got my first internship was for a startup television network. So I was doing on-air graphics for a startup television network using After Effects, doing a little bit of 3D, which was just pure luck, but it's not really that lucky because I was like also the lab assistant. And I, you know, that was my second job, is I was the lab assistant at school. And I even got offered another job even while I had that one. I got offered a second job saying, hey, you should make graphics for, I think it was like whatever, Colorado Rockies or something. They wanted me to do the big displays there. I was like, wow, what an opportunity. But I don't know what that means. I just, you know, you try to work and try to do things that interest you. You hope something falls in your lap, and you never know what illustration that you're doing at 1 a.m. or what design you're doing at 1 a.m. will get you that job. More often than not, little things that I've done, like 3D printing, even at Adobe, for instance. You know, fast forward, you know, after I, you know, worked for various like agencies here in Colorado, going from, you know, making CD-ROMs using Director to websites, to working for Stars Entertainment, Stars with a Z, they make movie channel stuff. Yeah. To Adobe, but like, I don't know how much you want to hear, because what do you want to hear?
Well, it sounds like it kind of, you know, you got your first job and just naturally it was kind of like a need, like, hey, we need you to do this.
Yeah. And by the way, can I tell you a little story that I haven't told anyone? Like 0 people know this story, by the way. But when I got my first, with my first at the on-air television, this network, there was a time where a project hit me and I kind of like froze. Like I didn't know how to do this timer that counted down from 60 to 0 and do this stuff. And I just couldn't. And I feel like I kind of froze a little bit. Like I just couldn't figure it out, which was a scary time. And luckily the other designer, which was also just like an assistant guy, like helped me with it. It was just it's the closest I felt like I came to losing my job, because I could not get this little thing done. And it was like super scary. So I don't know what that means, but it was a time where I kind of like froze and I couldn't figure it out. And I haven't had that happen since. I just kind of like, my big message is like, I just kind of like worked my butt off and did what I needed to do. Usually that was the only time where I froze and I feel like I couldn't really I couldn't do it, which is so weird. So I'll still be thinking about that for years to come as well. I think as designers and artists, I think, you know, when we're a lot of times we're tasked with things and it's just like, I need you to make this happen. How can you make this happen? Just figure it out. And you're sitting there looking at this thing going, how the heck am I going to make this thing happen? I have no idea how to do this. But we have the drive and the perseverance to figure it out. It might not be the perfect solution, but it will be the solution. Yeah, exactly. Like just try to sit down and figure it out. Try not to be stressed out. I think I got a little stressed out and I just couldn't figure it out. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing, you know, since I'm in this career like 20 years or whatever. When I'm approached with something that I don't know how to do, I'm excited because like I have an opportunity to learn how to do something new. It's
Yeah.
boring when you have all the answers, right? You know how it makes you feel awesome because you can knock something out. But at what point does it come? At what point is it like no longer like growth for you? You know,
Right.
so those tough things that get thrown in your lap are opportunities to like hopefully learn, you know, which is
Yeah.
good.
And I think like it sounds like for you, it just kind of evolved from that first job. Like, oh, okay, I've learned this skill. Now I have that ability. I've learned this skill. Now I have that ability. Is that kind of how things went along? I mean, you said you started at that television show and you
Yeah.
ended up at Stars at that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, it was, and you know, and it is. It's all like an evolution of like little by little. So yes, you know, I, you know, worked at the television network, and eventually they kind of like went under, and I got another job, which wasn't, you know, a big deal. I don't know how I learned some of this stuff. I think I learned some of the tools like director in college, and then there was a director sort of like whatever job that opened up. We were making CD-ROMs at the time, and that led to something else. And these little things, like you're saying, that even get thrown in your lap. You know, that it becomes a piece of the whole thing, like maybe a little bit of an app design or something. And then maybe that industry starts getting bigger. And then therefore you have that, I would always like, definitely always take any opportunity to explore something new and always take like as much responsibility as you can. Like take it all on, you know, take more responsibility, take more of the blame for things, less of the credit. If that's all you did is worked hard, took responsibility, took less of the credit and like more of the blame, you can build an entire career off that alone, you know, and just being likable. Like it's not, I don't think it's complex, but it's not necessarily always like easy. It's just not, it's definitely not complex. There almost like are no secrets, you know?
Yeah. And I think out of all like creative fields, I shouldn't say all, but graphic designers mostly, we constantly have to adapt and evolve what we're doing all the time. Like when I was in college, there wasn't like a class for UI and UX design. That wasn't like a thing. Like the most interactive you got was a website. And then like I'm thinking now, I'm at work now and going, man, like that looks really cool. I want to learn that. And the way I've been doing that is actually through Adobe and watching you guys do stuff through Live. And I think, you know, I mean, you've been obviously in the industry like and like evolved a lot more. I've only been in the industry for like 4 or 5 years
now. And you've already like seen it change though, huh?
Yes, already. Yeah. So I think it's really important as designers to not get really stuck, and I would love to know your opinion on this, is not be like, well, I only do print and that's it, because you will, I feel like more than ever now, designers need to be more equipped to do like things all over the field, not just in one specialty, because you're gonna be rendered useless at that point.
Yeah, trust me. And I think it's almost like you're kind of talking about like sort of like getting older. You're like, I do print design and that's it, which that's great, because I know there's probably a guy out there. There's probably one guy that's still doing director right now, and he's raking it in because he's the only one that does it and everybody else has moved on. So like, I applaud you, my friend. But you are right. Like you never want to shut yourself off from like new technology, like for sure. And I'm not just saying that because I work at Adobe, but like you said, I did CD-ROMs and director. Like I used to airbrush. I thought airbrush was my thing. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get really good at airbrushing, because that was like the coolest way to illustrate, was like airbrushing. And then it's just evolved and evolved. And I think one thing that's helped me out a lot, by the way, here, let me tell you another little quick thing. Like I was probably only out of school a couple of years or whatever, and like working for an agent, some company. And then I met somebody at a conference, and she's like, you want to come train for me? Do you want to come be a trainer? And I was like, sure. So that if I did not go to that conference, and if I did not meet her, Emily Kim, which is her name, she's like still working today. If I wouldn't have met her, she helped me like get certified at Adobe as a certified trainer. And then I got to know people internally at Adobe. And then I was training for like 8 years, and I would take time off of work and then go train like
Mhm.
probably a couple days a month. I would take time off of work and go do a training class where I taught this training. And I
Yeah.
did that for like 8 years. That's how Adobe got to know me, but that's a little side thing that I did. I don't know why. I think it's just the workaholic in me or whatever.
I mean, we
And
all
that
have
just
a
like
side
changed my
hustle.
life. Yeah. And that's what I think is cool. Like, hey, you have Photoshop. Yeah. Guess what? You could do like 1,000 things, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think when did you really make that shift from being like, okay, I'm not really straight up illustration anymore. This really isn't my focus. When did that switch happen for you?
Well, I don't even know if I was ever really in an illustrator. Well, probably happened immediately after school. Like I don't know if I was ever really an illustrator. I think I've pretty much been working in graphic design the
Mhm.
whole time. And there has to be a different term for it. So when I say graphic design, I think of a lot of prints, but I got immediately in, I don't know. I'm thinking over this now that you're asking me. It's just kind of gradually happened. I think I was lucky enough to work for maybe smaller companies of like maybe 30 people.
Mhm.
That way I got to do lots of things, and I did maybe some illustration, or I used Photoshop, like whatever the job called for, I did. So I was just like providing visual solutions the whole time. You
Gotcha.
know, so I never did pure illustration. I think that's two sides to it, because like you as a graphic designer, to some degree, your job is maybe even to not even have a style, right? They shouldn't look at you and say, "Oh, that's a Brianna." They could, but
Yeah.
your power could be is that the company shines and you're not shining, right? So
Mhm.
like you are selling something and you're projecting the right message, which is huge. So graphic designers might have the latest style, which is I think fun. It just says, "Hey, this is contemporary new." And then you have the other side of illustrators where they get hired for the Brianna Gable style, for instance. And
Right. Yeah.
that's another era. If you could build a career on having a certain illustrative style and being this type of illustrator, that's fantastic. I
Mhm.
also do know that some of those people have the problem of, oh, I'm known as doing X and I want to do Y, right? So I
Mhm.
think as a graphic designer, you have a lot more flexibility to provide almost any solution, provided your style is always going to be like part of it. And I would
Yeah.
and think about what your style is. Like, what is, I don't know.
Right.
Don't sweat it too much, but your style should be professional. That's it.
Mhm.
Just be professional. Everything you do is just like have it be professional.
Right.
I don't know.
And I think now like more recently, at least for when I like started college, I now think like graphic designers are now like moving more a little bit into illustration. I feel like now more than ever, like the graphics
Mm-hmm.
part of it and then the like hand drawn
Yeah.
illustration type, it's like
Yeah.
colliding. Cause I
Yeah.
mean, look at like how typography is just exploding.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's interesting. And I would like give you a theory on why I think that is. Well, like maybe one side of it is like photography and Instagram and all that, like quick photo editing is like everywhere. It's so ubiquitous. Everybody can do it. So I think like hand lettering, for instance, is really, really popular right now because it's something that is unique that took some time. Same thing with these people are searching for a little bit of authenticity, and rather than something very like rote that's a filter. So that's why I think designers and graphic designers kind of lean toward that
Yeah.
loose style that's just like feels like just original, at least like somebody touched it with their hand.
Yeah.
So that stuff's computers are never gonna take over everything, because the more digital everything becomes, the more the organic stuff is gonna stand out. So that's like a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I mean, I was kind of I feel like I'm a really great designer when it comes to the computer. Like I can do anything. It might take me a minute
Nice.
to figure it out.
Uh-huh.
But, like when they say like, "Oh, draw really pretty hand calligraphy," I'm like, I can't. Like I
Well,
can't.
first off, like, do they know how hard that is? Because it's like not easy to just
So
like whip
hard.
something out. Like, because again, they watch the 15-second clip on Instagram of somebody doing
Yeah.
hand lettering. It's probably, again, they've done it 1,000 times. So
Yeah. But I think now
that's,
more.
go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, but yeah, like just to like going back to that, like I envy like people like you who have that like skill, can go off and like do those things, like draw, paint, whatever they need to do, and infuse it into their design. Because for me, I wish, especially like just in my training, that we would have pushed it more, because now I feel I've had clients come to me like and give me examples, like they're like typography, like this beautifully designed piece. They're like, I want this, and I was like,
wow.
like that's not like a font. Like,
Yeah, I can't just select that font. Maybe
right.
that at that point might just require some education,
Yeah.
like to them on your part, to be like, hey, you know, this is like hand illustrate. This is somebody, so many people's careers right now where that's all they do.
And hours.
And like, I think for designers, I don't know, maybe you can speak to this. There's so many cool things that you see out there that you might want to do hand lettering, or you might want to get into more 3D because you like that look. And I think as graphic designers, it's cool that you have all these different areas that you can go into. It could kind of tear you into many different areas, don't you think?
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's okay. Like, try out that stuff. Try it all out, and you'll maybe initially get a little depressed by how hard it is. But if you're passionate about, like, I just say try it out and just see what sticks. Try it all out. Try, like, and this is another story I was going to say, even internally at Adobe. So I was so I got hired as an evangelist, evangelized Flash, the Flash platform, did lots of Flash, did training on, like, did have half my career, you know, it's because of Flash. Yeah. And then we were kind of like, there's HTML, like kind of whatever, advanced enough to take over Flash. Congratulations. It didn't win. It just matured enough to where it could do all that stuff, HTML and JavaScript. But then I was like, oh, I'll try out some 3D printing. And I just remember doing something on a Saturday night, a 3D printing thing, like made an iPhone case with a 3D printing design. And then Monday they're like, hey, did we know anybody does this? Oh, Paul just made something over the weekend. Oh, guess what? Now he's our 3D printing evangelist. As part of his other job, all of his other jobs, he's now the 3D printing guy. And I'm like, that's kind of something that I wanted to do that was fun, that then now kind of like became a little part of my career. And it's something I did randomly on a Saturday night. I was the only one we did it. Guess how many evangelists we had at the time? Probably like 20. Yeah. And I was the only one that did it. And how many evangelists are with us now? Out of those 20, there's 2. Wow. We've hired others, but like there's like 5 of us, and there used to be like 20 of us at one time.
So like, kind of going back to this, how important, and we kind of like touched on this along the way, but how important do you feel it is for designers to really just constantly be educating themselves on new design techniques, new design technology? Like, how important do you think that is, especially in 2018?
Yeah, I mean, hugely important. Like, do it whenever you can, quite frankly. And a lot of this stuff is just going to take place on your own time because you saw something cool and you're like, I want to learn how to do that. And I think most people that are doing that stuff, people out on social media, they're like super kind, right? I challenge people to like reach out to me, reach out to anyone out there. And maybe that's all you need is like one person that next thing you know, they're like your mentor. And next thing you know, you're working together. Like, think about the long play in this. You just were doing something on the side because you're passionate about it. And next thing you know, that person is asking you to speak at that conference, like, since they can't, and you've built a relationship with them. Like, even you and I talking, who knows how many times our paths are going to cross, like, going forward. We just don't know. Definitely don't screw anybody over, but like, that's why you can't. Like, this is a long, I'm in this industry forever. Like, I'm be hard to get rid of. I'm like the herpes of the industry. You cannot get rid of me. I'm just kidding. Do not quote me there. There is no cure for me. No, I'm just joking.
sorry, Adobe.
Sorry. He's like, you could try to cover me up, but no, I'm not going away. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. I love that. But it's nice. And you know, like, hopefully people listening, one, it's okay to not know what you want to do. 2, you should be blessed if you're in an industry, because a lot of people don't have that, to be like, oh, I'm in this thing that I kind of love. People don't have that. People just have jobs. First of all, I think having a dream job is like overrated to a certain degree. Like, you know, you just need to fill a need if you can. and just add value to wherever you are. There's enough fulfillment right there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's all what you make of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I want find my calling. I don't know, just fill a need, you know what? And you'll realize that what you never thought you'd do, you're doing, and you love it. Those are the stories that I want to hear. But I also don't want to hear people complain, because beyond 20 years old, I'm sorry, you don't have anybody to blame for where you're at in life. I hate to say, I mean, you do. I don't want to, but I mean,
I get what you're saying.
Me as a white male, nobody's going to feel sorry for. If you're an able-bodied person, like, there's no reason. You can only blame other people like so much. Like, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I don't know what to. I don't want to get a lot of hate mail either, because it's a very touchy subject. It's kind of a little,
I mean, everyone has
to make your own bed. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And like, I really do believe, and of course, like, everyone's circumstances are different, but I really do believe if you have the drive and the motivation and the hustle to do what you want to do in life, you will get there. It probably will suck and it will be hard and not fun, but if you really want it, you're going to go get it. And no matter how many obstacles happen in your way, you'll find a way to overcome them and get to your end goal.
Yeah. So we just had our Adobe Max conference a couple of weeks ago. It's probably like, 3 weeks ago. So, Ron Howard said the most, so he was at the conference. He said the most talented individuals in Hollywood are like the hardest working, or something like that. Or the most famous people are also like the most hardworking. That's just to say, like, people just like worked their butt off and they did what they needed to do. And it's like, so many things are just hard work. There's no secret. You know? I thought that was kind of fascinating that he said, like, the hardest workers. I really want to pull up that quote. He might've mentioned something about being very kind too, but it's like, wasn't anything you thought of when you thought of like the most famous people in Hollywood. And he's worked with everybody. Right.
You just think they're like born with it, and that's why
and you just don't see them working hard at night. It's like, we had Tiffany Haddish. So I hosted Sneaks with Tiffany Haddish. Looking at her, she just blew up out of nowhere. She was in Girls Trip. She's like on everybody's like radar now. Well, she's been doing this for like 20 years. She's been doing it a very long time. Right. And even some of those clips, the ad-libbing that she did in the movie, I've seen her. Some of that is actually from some of her comedy that she's done in the past. It's like improv. Improv is improv, but improv is really also pulling from things that that have worked. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody's asked to just illustrate something out of the blue. Guess what? They've illustrated that before. So they're relying on all this hard work that they did before. You just get to see them the moment that they shine, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. And I think so, like, now that you like, this is kind of like how your life has progressed, like in your career. You started off one thing, it naturally just started rolling into all these different things. You've adapted, and you said you started just doing like side hustle training for Adobe. And is that how like you became the senior worldwide?
Yeah. Well, what title is that? I made up that title too.
It's so fancy.
So fancy. Just kidding.
Worldwide.
Wow. Ooh. Yeah, it was just a side hustle. It's like I became a trainer and I really got into that, and people just got to know me internally at Adobe. And then, eventually a job came up, and since I was already plugged in, I applied and got the job, and they've regretted it ever since. I'm sorry.
Can you explain to the listeners a little bit like what you do? Because I don't know if I can explain everything that you do.
Happy to. Adobe. Yeah, my title is evangelist. So my goal is just to, evangelize the tools, essentially. Where we're at today is really pointing a spotlight on the other designers of the world, saying, hey, you do this. I'm more of a host these days than like a designer. And that's half of me is like hosting and pointing a spotlight on somebody else, on the amazing designers that we have, because they're awesome. Yeah. And then the other half is I feel like my job is to train and inspire. Those are the two things. Inspiring doesn't do me any good if you're not going to show me how to do it. If you show somebody how to do it and it sucks, I'm not going to listen to you. So if you could create good art, create good work, and show people how to do it, that's what I think my two skills are. Being able to explain things, because once I know it, then anybody can learn it. But, and then,
Right.
you know, I also know how like, I think I know how to design and stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know what to tell you. Like, I live stream a lot. So when I'm not on the road, I have to go to next week. I got a host next week. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, I'll live stream on like Facebook Illustrator page or something. And I just like try to just like get the word out there and just try to help people. And then I wait for my phone to ring. Really. I just like internally, I'm like, somebody call me about a conference or something. Cause that's how I add value, is by doing this stuff. So please make my phone ring.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
that
mean,
helps.
no, that was perfect. I mean, because I feel like you do like a lot of different things. And just from what I met you in Philly at the Creative Jam, and you were hosting that, and also like introducing new tools for the iPad with Adobe.
Yeah.
And then you did like just recently at Adobe Max, which is like a giant conference. You were hosting like this huge talk introducing like all these new products, which is one, how scary and terrifying is that?
No. Like, you don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you. Don't even get me involved. We don't have enough time. Nobody's going to believe me, but I was like a straight up, like, super duper introvert in high school. Like, everybody knew me, but I was just this shy, cute, skinny kid. So shy. You could ask people, like, he was so shy. I did a speech basically like for prom, like on the prom court, I had to do a speech in front of the whole school, and I like totally bombed it. Like, so bombed it. I couldn't even, like, I was like on autopilot after that. I can't believe that happened.
And here
like,
you are.
And then here I am, like, speaking in front. I don't bat an eye. I love, because I genuinely, like, I'm so much like my, you know, my dad and everything. Like, I just really, like, genuinely, like, really like people. I don't care what I have to do. I will get up there and be like a fool, but I want to reach out to you. I want you to feel value and important and be motivated and inspired, because it's not about laughing at my jokes. It's just me trying to be a fool and trying to, like, relate to you but yeah, I've made all the mistakes. I was horrible, but I used to speak and I used to rock back and forth, like, even in my training, like I remember it's like, and it was just like a nervous thing that I would do.
Right.
So you do all these nervous things. That's okay. One, you're nervous. Two, maybe you don't know the content. Three, nobody really cares. They're not looking at you. They're probably looking at a slide or something else.
Right.
Like, nobody cares. More than anything, just be confident, because confidence alone will get you that job, and people will think you know what you're doing for a while. You know.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like if the confidence goes a long way, especially in this industry. I mean, there's so many times where I've seen people hired and, you know, they killed their interview. They were so great. And then, like, when I'm like, can you do this?
And they're like,
I come to find out they don't know how to do it.
They can't. Like, I don't know if that's called confidence. I think that's called lying. No. I
feel like if you come in there super confident and like, yes, I can do that, you can convince anybody.
Yeah. That's very true. That is very true. And, like, it's okay to say, yes, I could do that, and not actually know that technology, because you know how you learn how to learn, you know,
right.
It doesn't matter. Do I know how to do it? I don't know. X. Maybe not. Yes. The answer is yes. By the time you ask me to do it, yes. You know, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But you're not lying. You know, it's like, I can talk on.
Yeah, on. For sure. No.
Because this is the thing. Like, anytime you're trying to sell something, you're selling where you're at in your current life. This is all the stuff. These are all my skills. Oh, what are your skills? This is all the stuff that I've done in the past. The problem with it is, like, you'll just keep on doing that same stuff. Like, how could you want to say, yes, I want to move this direction. I could do this stuff, you know, and that's where, like, cool stuff comes from.
Oh yeah. 100%. And I think it's really interesting. The reason, like, I mean, I knew a lot about you from, like, watching live and meeting you, and obviously seeing you all these other little places. But then when I was, like, before I contacted you, I like to do, like, obviously a little research. So I'm knowing who I'm talking to. And when I was like, wait a second, like, he was an illustrator before, and, like, seeing how you worked, like, in TV a lot, I was like, I would have never guessed, because, like, I mean, right now I only see you as, like, the face of Adobe and, like, a designer, but now you telling me, like, how that all came to be, it makes so much sense. I'm like, oh, now everything's aligning now. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good. So that's good.
It's cool.
It's nice to clear it up and just see where somebody comes from. And it's just like you said, little things stacking one thing onto the next. There's a little opportunity and then it grows into this. Oh, you signed up to, maybe train for a company. Now you're training for that company. Oh, guess what? Adobe needs an evangelist. Now you're an evangelist. And guess what? Oh, Adobe launches, an illustration app on the iPad. Oh, guess what? You're an illustrator. So we're going to pull from that part of your career. So it just all kind of evolves and it seems to work out okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Adobe is, obviously the leader, in my opinion, in the creative industry. You guys are always innovating, putting new things together and new useful tools for what is happening. If anything, if anyone has evolved, it's been Adobe. You guys are on top of the game and seeing where the industry is going and trying to predict it and create a tool for us to use. So what is your favorite part of working for Adobe?
Oh man, I want to say yes, all of it. But I'm always excited when I get pushed in a different direction that I haven't done. I think that's the exciting part for me. I could go speak at Adobe Max or go do this talk. I've done that already 5, 10, whatever, however many times. So that doesn't interest me as much as something new that comes around. Even if it's something speaking, give me something that I haven't dealt with. If something breaks, that's when you know how good somebody is at something. If code breaks on during a presentation. So I like the what's next part of my job. What's next? We talked about Photoshop for the iPad. That's great. First of all, I'm not even that interested in it. I'm not okay, it's going to work on the iPad. Great. It's Photoshop. It's going to work on the iPad. That's fantastic. I'm more what can I design that's really going to highlight this product? Let's design something really cool. So that's what I like to do. Just design cool stuff.
I think it's really interesting that what you love most about your job is the unknown and learning new ways to create. And it kind of reflects your journey to this job. Your whole career, you've had to learn and adapt, and you were what's next? Pushing yourself, and how that's
from a designer standpoint though too, because when you say 3D printing to me, I'm oh, what can I do as a designer that's going to be awesome here? Or any augmented reality, what's a really fun creative take on this? And I love that every time you have some new technology, it's a new creative outlet that you could do something exciting with. There's other people that are just excited about technology for technology's sake. I'm not that person. I'm excited about technology for creativity's sake. What can I do with that? That maybe is unique and stuff. It's just really fun to think about. So I don't think I'm ever gonna get old. I never really get tired of this. I get excited about every single thing that I talk about. Because it's fun talking about technology and kind of what you can do with it, which is cool. Yeah,
and you can tell every time I've heard you have to do stuff for Adobe and talk about the programs. I just listen to you talk and I'm man, I'm stinking excited. Give me one of these iPads. Let me do.
And that's what I learned even from another evangelist, and I probably is that so we used to have this guy, Lee Brimlow was an evangelist, my favorite evangelist, best evangelist at Adobe during our sort of Flash era, if you will. And he was so entertained by him talking on stage, and he was so funny, but he was clearly entertained with himself. And that was the best part, because it was he knew one person was going to get a lot out of this presentation. It's him. He's so funny. It's he would laugh at his own jokes. And I do that too. I'll laugh at my own jokes, but like it so much that it doesn't matter if there's a ton, 50, it doesn't matter. You know when it's genuine and when it's ingenious. Ingenious. No. Anyways, so you know what I'm saying. But but honestly, another thing I'd say to young designers or even presenters as well. I think I could talk all day long about presenting as well, but just be yourself. Just be yourself. It looks cool. The person on stage is just be yourself, because there's no one way to be when it comes to presenting, and there's no one way to be when it comes to being a designer or illustrator or anything. but people will sense when when you're disingenuous, right? They'll just
Mm-hmm.
know when you're trying to be funny, when you're not a funny person.
Yeah.
Like, just be you. Like,
Yeah.
I know people that serve things really dry, but their content is so good. You're like, you just could hold on to every single word they say, and they said everything in a monotone voice. It doesn't matter. Their content was so amazing.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah.
And having them be humorous isn't going to help them at all. It's not going to feel right.
Yeah. People, I think, more nowadays are really searching for making that human connection, not just in like design, but in general. Like, that's why people are becoming so huge on Instagram. Yeah, their pictures are pretty, but when it's the caption that these people are reading, that's really like making that connection with them, and they're like, holy crap, this person's just like me.
A whole other skill. That's like, that's a writer. That's the writers of the world. Like, God bless people that are like good writers. I'm like, you are a genius writer. Like, you would win a creative jam. You pair a good writer with a good designer, they'll win every time. Like, just so creative. So
I feel bad for all my copywriting friends, because I'm constantly always like, hey,
asking,
can you write this for me?
Hey, you just be you, and then if you can't do it, you just got to get those good friends, right?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
That's
so.
Awesome.
If there's one piece of advice you could give a designer, or I'm not even a designer, just creatives, because you don't even have to be a designer to like use all this technology. If there's one piece of advice you could give them about moving on in their future, in their career, what would that be?
It's all gonna sound like very cliche, but that doesn't make it any less true. Gosh, I already. So I would say, like, work hard and like take advantage of like every opportunity that you get. Right. So just like, again, it's not hard. Just like, I think you just like work hard, and then take advantage of every little opportunity that you get that comes your way. So somebody's going to bring up something about apps. Like, what do you know about that? About apps, for instance? I don't know. That's what I think after talking to you, like the extra little things that I've learned along the way have accelerated have helped me stay in the career as the whole industry has moved. Because again, I'm not making CD-ROMs anymore. So honestly, I mean, honestly, it sounds dumb. I'm just really big into like working hard right now, and not even working smart. Maybe I should say working smart. Can I change my answer?
I mean, if you want to, but I think your answer is perfect. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, it might sound cliche, but it's so true. You will go so much farther in your career and your just life in general if you take every opportunity and look at it in a positive light, not like oh, well, I got to learn this, I don't want to. Like, take it and take it head on.
You have to do that. And again, just work hard and do that. And I appreciate all those designers, and everybody knows those designers. Don't be afraid to like suck at stuff, because like if you keep, again, it sounds stupid, but you just keep working at it, like smart, you don't want to be good at drawing and just start drawing. No, draw with purpose, which is kind of like working smart. But people know the people who work hard, and people know the people who just talk. We get it. There's people that just talk. They have reputations, and there's people that work hard. And I'm thinking of people that I'm not going to say right now. But like Nick Longo is a guy. He's a designer. He's in. So he is a name. He has a podcast as well. And he's just a working designer that does stuff. And I'm like, you are awesome. Like, you have so many hands-on like tips and tricks that you need to like share with the world. And you're always working. So I appreciate him.
Yeah.
And you, honestly, someone like you, like young and doing something that you don't have to do. You could just be fiddling around on your phone or doing whatever else, and you're not doing that. That's why I think this is more important than like anything else, that you do, which is awesome. I mean,
well, thanks.
Or maybe not. Maybe you're like, I would have been better if I would have just been painting my nails right now. At least I would accomplish something in this hour. I heard Paul Trani on and on.
No, I really appreciate that, because I feel like everything you had to say there about like hard work and just going for it is true. And especially if you're
So I was just going to say one more thing. Even some of the throwaway designs and the little thing, when I say work hard and something gets thrown away or this, that, the other thing, nothing ever really gets thrown away. Like I've seen past projects kind of reemerge or another idea like reemerge. So like, I don't think even when my hard work, I feel like it's lost, it's not really lost. It's just like never really lost. It's all these little things that I do that comes around like, wow, I could use that thing that I threw away. I know how to do that now. So, you know, I'd like to think everything kind of hopefully reemerges with some sort of purpose.
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%. I agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you.
Hold on 1 second.